they're filming their own music videos, they're producing their own music, they're releasing their own music. And in not being signed, they have the freedom to say what they want and put out what they want, which is why they're, I think, making such a bit of a ripple right now, is because they're putting out, some would say, controversial music, but it's really just, music that's speaking their truth. But if they were signed, then that would be limited. There's lots of people that want, I think, to be signed, but really don't understand the limitations of your artistry of when you kind of go through that.
Hi, Ohana. Welcome to the Musician Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Alise Koa, where we talk about the myth of getting signed to, air quote, make it. This is not true and outdated information. That's why I'm bringing on so many different independent musicians that are, in their definition, air quote, making it, to prove to you that there's a plethora of ways for everyday musicians like you and me to make money. Now, I know there are so many different things we need to know as independent musicians, from how to write great copy and how to market and songwriting and producing and how to build a home studio and so on. Most of the time we don't even know what we need to know. It's hard to juggle it all. So I put together a free members area that you can sign up to right now, where I share my favorite podcasts, books, and online courses on all those topics with you, so you can save yourself money and time. I've done it all for you. As Tony Robbins likes to say, growth is the only limit to your happiness. And we don't want that. All you have to do is click the link below or go to alisekoa.com/free. Now, let's get started. Welcome to the Musician Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Alise Koa, and I have an amazing guest with me today. She is a live loop performer, multi-instrumentalist, a producer. She can do it all, basically. I haven't found much that she can't do, but she's amazing at what she does, and she's an amazing person, and I can't wait to introduce to you Jodie B. Sorry, Jodie B. Welcome, Jodie.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, Jodie B, and I can't play drums. There's something that I am not
okay.
that I cannot do.
It makes me feel a little better about myself, because it feels like you can play any instrument, you just pick it up and you can just play it, and you have this huge mixing table that has a bazillion buttons, and I'm like, how do you even know which one to push? And I'm glad if I can kind of manage Logic, but anyways, thank you again for being on here. I just feel so honored that you're taking the time. Just a quick rundown for people that don't know who you are. Just introduce yourself, what got you into music. I kind of know because I've done my research, but your journey started very, very early, and you kind of said, your dad kind of brought you into that journey. So kind of run us through that from the really early days to where you are now and what you're doing, basically.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so I had a bit of an interesting childhood. My dad raised my sister and I to be street performers. So we call that busking also. And so when I was aged 3 and my sister was 6, we would perform downtown Calgary on the streets. And the money that we made from busking, he would purchase instruments and lessons, which at now I'm so grateful for. I'm so grateful to be able to have all these instruments and the lessons, and I still perform with these instruments to this day. So I'm just so grateful. At the time, it was, we missed a lot of friends' birthday parties, and we missed a lot of just regular kid activities, probably because we were required to practice these instruments a certain amount of times before we would leave the house usually. And so it was pretty interesting, but like I said, I'm so grateful for that experience now. I definitely wouldn't have evolved into the artist that I am without that upbringing.
That explains a lot, playing all these instruments, right?
Mm-hmm. yeah, kind of like a Jackson 5 upbringing, I would
Yeah,
say.
exactly.
Yeah, without the dancing, but
You can
yeah, then I
always
played
add
in,
that.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Add a little dancing later.
Yeah, you
Um,
could dance and sing and play instruments all at the same time.
yeah. But then we were in a family band for a while, so not busking anymore. But when we got a bit older, we were playing for like corporate gigs and weddings and events and stuff like that. So that's where I really learned to do a lot of live sound, because we would set up our own PA and stage equipment and lighting and all that.
Yeah.
Um, which yeah, I hated at the time, but again, later on in life, super
Yeah.
grateful for that experience, and to know just how to control that big board like that comes
Yeah.
from that experience. And then I played in a few of my own bands, just playing bass, and then I didn't play music for a while and decided that I really missed it, and it was a really big part of me. So I just grabbed my acoustic guitar and started playing open mics around the city. And I'd actually find an open mic every night of the week.
Yeah.
And just speaking about it now, actually, I'm like, I should do that again, just to like kind of connect back to where
Yeah.
I first started. But when I was doing those, I met this guy that had a looping pedal. His name's True Knot.
Mm.
True Knot, Trooknot. Great individual. But he had a looping pedal and he was beatboxing, and we ended up sharing the last spot for that open mic. And I was like, that thing is so cool. Oh my gosh, I have to get one. And so that was about 5 years ago. That's kind of what started the looping pedal journey.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And in the last, maybe, actually, it's probably been about 7 years, because in the last 4 or 5 years, I've really started producing more.
Mm-hmm.
And really just found a love for recording and getting the best takes from artists and setting the atmosphere, and
Yeah.
getting a nice, well balanced, clean mix where everything sits and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where the um, trajectory is going. I think more tuning into those skills of audio engineering and producing and recording, and
Yeah.
also while still releasing my own music. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at now, is I'm just trying to gain as much mentorship as possible for producing and
Yeah.
recording and engineering, and then also still trying to work with as many artists and as much of the community as possible to create
Yeah.
art with meaning. Really trying to
Yes.
just promote a message of kindness and resilience. So
Yeah.
those are kind of where my next few songs are headed, are outlining those messages.
Yeah. I love that because that's what I look for. I mean, I think when you're a musician yourself and you're a songwriter, I think that's what I look for, at least. It's like, okay, but why? It's great music, but what are you trying to tell me? And
Mm.
your album really hit me differently because I'm like, wow, they're not these typical love songs on here, or like you broke my heart and I'm gonna go, or these party songs or whatnot. Like, I love when music has a message and when you're actually saying something and when you're trying to, you know, actually get someone to think about something. And that's what made me there were multiple reasons, but there's always when a song hits me a certain way and I just know, I need to reach out because this is you know special. And that's what I felt with your album. But what I mean, I kind of geeked out about War Cry.
That's
um
awesome.
and we're going to talk about, because there's a great story behind that as well. But that is a very, very cool journey to like be on, that you're also getting into like the production side more, what like like the last couple of years, right?
Yeah, it actually really started with that album, because
Uh-huh.
I, like most artists, I couldn't really afford studio time
Yeah.
to do a full
Or the
album
producer. Yeah.
with a producer.
Yeah.
So I just got Ableton, and I just went through that learning curve of um, many YouTube tutorials and calling
Yeah.
many friends and asking lots of questions.
Yeah.
And then I ended up producing that album, that whole album. And
Wow.
I'm very proud of it to look back and appreciate it for what it is. But my greatest lesson in producing that album was just how valuable community is, and that you don't need to
Yeah.
do everything by yourself, and that
Yeah.
it's really good to reach out to get other people's helps and an opinion on it. Because
Mm,
if you're trying to do 10 different jobs and you're kind of just putting 10% in each of those jobs, as
yeah.
opposed to dividing it a little bit more evenly like that. So again, I'm super grateful for it, and it was such
Yeah.
a fantastic learning experience, because I'm able to say that, yeah, I produced and recorded and engineered my first album and put it out, and I'm super grateful for it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely would can't wait to do it with friends again.
Yeah, 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 yeah. For sure. And because it took you like 4 years, right, to produce the entire album, which is like 8 tracks on there, right?
Yeah, it took a way longer than it probably should have,
Yeah.
but only because I was not saying that you thought it took long, but just,
Uh,
yeah, it did take a few years for
yeah.
sure, just because I was learning while I was
Yeah.
producing. So
Learning by doing,
you,
you know.
I
Going full
produced the
out.
yeah, like I produced the first few songs, and then I'd get to the last few songs, but my learning had evolved so much by those last few songs that I'd revisit the first few songs and then apply what I was learning. So it just ended up being this
Mm,
cycle where
yeah,
I eventually just had to throw in the towel. I was
yeah,
like, okay,
yeah,
this is good for now. Art is
yeah.
never truly finished, it's just
No,
abandoned.
yeah, yeah.
And
Done is better than perfect because
yeah, so
perfect doesn't get anything done. So that was definitely the right call.
yeah, and I think that's one of the hardest things as an artist, being able to get out of your own way and actually put music out there, but accept the fact that you're always learning and you're always growing, and
Yeah,
you'll always evolve from each project that you put out. So you just
yeah.
have to appreciate what it is at that moment in
Mm,
time and kind of grow from it from there. It's so many of us, I think, get stuck on, it's not quite right, it's not perfect, and we'll just hold on to it
yeah,
forever. And then,
exactly. Yeah,
so
it's kind of this. I don't know. It's just so hard because it's just that hamster wheel of I want it to be the best thing I can do, right? But when do you know when that is? And and it's just like if I look at my songs I wrote 15 years ago, I'd be like, what the heck was that? And that's
yeah.
a good reaction because that means you've grown, you've learned. Like if I wouldn't
Mhm.
be shocked at what I wrote 5 years ago, it means I didn't learn anything. So that's
Yeah.
actually a good thing when you're like, oh, you know what? I learned now, I know better, and I can apply it now to the old songs, right? But then again, like when does it stop, right? Then that's a hard, balance to find. It's like I want to do my best, but we're constantly always growing. So when does that like end? So
Yeah. Yeah. You just
it's
gotta
hard.
abandon ship.
Yeah, just do it, just cut, so you know
Yeah.
I mean I just mentioned it because people can appreciate how long it actually takes to put out an album, to put out 8 tracks that you listen to, like what if that's 3 minutes per song, that's 24 minutes, like, so let's say in half an hour you listen through to it for half an hour, and it takes 2 to 4 years to make an album like that. So there's
Crazy.
a lot of work that goes into that. um but um I love the entire album. So it has a very interesting title, and there's actually a really cool story behind it. So I hope you don't feel like a broken record, but can you
Oh, not at all.
explain the story? Because why did you name the album the way it's called?
Yeah, so it's pronounced equanimous,
Yeah,
and
I could not
equanimous,
pronounce
I
that.
know it's an interesting word, but it basically means calm and composed.
Yeah.
And I don't really know if that album title reflects the body of work itself. It's I mostly just it came to me while I was doing a 10-day Vipassana meditation, which you take a vow of silence for 10 days and remove any sort of inhibitants. So no music or phone or writing or caffeine or alcohol or meat or dairy, any stuff really. You basically just kind of keep your head down and meditate for 10 days straight. And this word kept popping up was to remain in a state of equanimity and to sort of pursue, to be equanimous. And I just, every day we would walk outside and we were like literally just allowed to walk in like this kind of circle. 10 days, if nothing else, you end up like, okay, counting your every step or like counting every new leaf that you see. And I started thinking about this word and I was like, I'm going to produce an album and title it Equanimous. And that just stuck in my head. And then like 3 or 4 years later, when I'm learning how to produce and this Vipassana meditation it was quite a while ago. So it just kind of came back into my head as I had collected these songs and I was working on them. And I think the reason it did take so long because I was, mixing them and mastering them as well, which I definitely appreciate if it's sent off to somebody else because you have fresh ears on it. But yeah, so it was mostly just like a vision that I had that I just really wanted to see played out, and then it was done. So yeah, that's the name of the album, Equanimous, and that's kind of what it means. And I think it's important. I think basically that meditation retreat in some way just teaches you how to remain, calm and composed in any sort of situation that may arise just by connecting back to your breath. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I get because I don't even. I'm still kind of just so in awe of like how artists come up with stuff and how they the stories. I just love the stories behind everything. Just like picking a title, and it seems like, oh, just pick a title. It's like no, like it's or just the order of the songs, things that seem so simple and so mundane, where you're just like, no, it's actually alone just picking the title takes forever. Getting the order right of the tracks. Like, I think people don't really understand. Again, that's why I brought it up, is they don't understand how long it takes to actually prepare something that you listen to in 3 minutes. Right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I know it's a strange profession, really. But
yeah, I mean in the last years a lot has changed, and we're gonna talk about the music industry in just a minute, but I would love to hear, again, I hope you don't feel like a broken record, but Far Cry was, I just loved it. It was stuck in my mind, in my head for at least a couple of days. And I showed my husband, I'm like, this is Jodie B. She's going to be on she's going to be on the podcast. Listen to the music. Because we're both like super like music geeks. And we just love good music. And so when we find a new artist, we just geek out and we show the other person. We're like, oh, check out this artist. So I showed him and he's also like, headphones on, it's like it just has this really good just groove, just really cool vibe, and it's not like really aggressive or anything. Like it has a good beat, so it's like you're not falling asleep or anything, but it's still chill,
yeah.
And I love that, and especially like through the rap, it kind of it fits with like the really nice bass and the synth underneath and like that chill vibe, and then you have the rap, which kind of it just flows really well. So I
thank you.
Anyway, I could go on forever why the song is amazing and why I love it and why it's been stuck in my head. But tell the story of how that actually came together and what made you write the song in the first place.
Determination flickers from the tip of my tongue. Impatience overcomes a wise young one. Speak with intentions, impress my surroundings. Fixed on the earth, gotta keep my ground. And past experience got you filled with the hate, full of negativity. You can't trust.
Yeah, War Cry. It's as far as like my style of music and writing, obviously influenced by a lot of like early 90s breakbeat hip hop and kind of poetry style writing.
Yeah.
One of my biggest influences is like atmosphere, just that kind of style of writing. And then I grew up going to a lot of electronic music festivals, and so that's where I think this music becomes a hybrid a bit. And then I was raised with like a blues man sort of and a
Yeah.
harmonica player, so um yeah, there's a lots of those different influences as far as like sonically, how that came together. um what I was writing about is I was working, I think I was scaffolding at the time. I worked construction for almost 10 years.
Mhm.
And I just really went against every fiber of my being to be in a Monday to Friday kind of
Yes.
8 to 5 lifestyle, working for somebody else. And
Yeah.
in a you know, just in my external environments were just not how I wanted them to be at all, and I felt really trapped. And um yeah, that's kind of where Warcry was born, because it was like, it's so great up in here in the nest when everyone around you tells you what's best.
Yeah.
But I got to trust my gut, and I got to cut my ties, leap into the unknown and learn to fly.
Right.
So it's just like, just even though it looks all peachy keen on the outside, you really just got to connect with yourself and really listen and tell yourself what you need to do and where you need to go. So that was kind of like, this is my war cry.
Yeah.
I gotta, it's like this internal war of my own mind, essentially, of like what I know is right and then what everybody else is telling me is right.
Hmm. Yes. Do you think that a lot of musicians are struggling with something like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, because that's basically what our work, that's what our work is, right? It's our work
Yeah.
is expressing ourselves, but
Yeah.
then the success of our work is based upon how other people judge it. So that it's kind of constant, I think, in a musician's world or an artist's world of again, finding that balance of when always learning and
Yeah.
when to stop on work and put it out. It's like the
Yes.
same with always doing what you feel is correct and true to you, but also appealing to everybody else. Like, such a bizarre
Yeah.
profession, but
Uh, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely a weird one because like I had someone on the podcast that was like, yeah, he was like this real like he was he worked in construction too, but he was more the designer. What is that what you call that
an
whoever.
architect or something.
Yes, thank you, the architect. Holy moly, yes, the architect. Thank you. And so he is this really like logic driven person, where everything needs to make sense and everything has its order. And then he was like, you know what? But my heart is telling me something else. My heart is still with music. And then he just cut the ties and went full time, making music. And he was like, it's the mind versus the heart constantly. You're like, oh,
Yeah,
this doesn't make sense, but my heart is telling me this, and I really want to do that, right? And I
yeah.
think as musicians, we're always in this kind of conflict of constantly having to be, this tug of war sometimes.
Yeah, it's crazy. And the fact that, yeah, you've got to, you know it's so important to do what you know in your heart is right and put out music that is true to you, but at the same time also needs to appeal to some people, or else they will never get heard. If that's your mission, is to get your music heard. But then the other thing is you got to be mindful of is to not fit that cookie cutter shape too much, because then
Yeah,
people will sense that
yeah.
and not get that that authenticity from you. And then
Yeah.
it's so funny, it's all this little balancing game. But
Oh, we can't. It feels like we can't win sometimes because it's always like, where's the balance, right?
yeah,
Where's
yeah,
what is
yeah.
something that you wish people get from your music when they listen to the album?
um I think I think it's important for me to realize what can be done before I do it, so that
Mm.
it doesn't seem so kind of far-fetched. And I think if I were to meet somebody that had kind of wrote and produced the majority of their album that was a female when I first started, it probably would have been pretty influential to me.
Mm.
But as far as like the messages and stuff as well, I think that I just want people to just really take the time to connect and resonate what's true to them, finding out what their passions are. You know, if you don't have any, then, you know, maybe try experimenting and trying to do some things and
Yeah.
find out what you really love and what you really like, and then, you know, pursue it. And I just want, I guess, more people to see that, and you can do anything, you know, to an extent, I guess, that if you just kind of believe in yourself. And yeah, I guess want more for people in general. Like, I love to inspire people and love to really encourage them to go for their dreams. And so I think that's probably the message I'd like for people to take. And with my newer music coming out, it's more about like really just being kind to each other, and
Yeah.
really just above all else, like, our world needs it so bad right now, to just kind of see where everybody's coming from, and listen to each other, and to reply respectfully, and yeah, to just promote as much kindness and awareness as possible in the kind of newer stuff. And I think Equanimous touches on that a little bit, but yeah. Sorry, kind of like my long-winded answers of coming back around.
Yeah. No, you can take as much time as you want to answer a question. There's no rule on that one. Um, no, it's really cool because I mean, what I said in the beginning is really nice that you do have a message and that you're really, I don't know. Me personally, I don't listen to the radio anymore because I'm just so sick of it, hearing the same thing over and over and over again. And so when I find artists like you, it's so refreshing because I'm like, finally, it's that you can just feel the authenticity in that, when you have a sax solo in there and then you have another rap section and then the sax in there again. And I'm just like, oh, yes. Like, you don't have like the typical A B, and then the bridge and then like a double chorus and all that stuff, or pre-chorus going into the chorus and an outro or an intro, and all that stuff. It's just kind of nice when it breaks away from that and things happen unexpected. I love when I'm surprised in a song, like, oh, sax solo, yes, go for it. You have like the I personally love it. So I just love the album. If you can't
Thank
tell,
you.
I love it, and I can't wait for new stuff to come, for sure. Because if, again, you're always growing, so if I'm already loving this stuff, then I can't wait for the new
Yeah.
for the new
Yeah.
thing.
Thanks. I'm glad that you appreciate, I guess, kind of the randomness of the structure of it, because that's something
Yeah.
I've only realized recently that I do. And I think it comes from street performing and playing in a family band for so long. Our father would often just start playing something and then tell us to kind of figure it out. And then these songs would go on for like so long. And then we also grew up doing lots of kitchen parties and jamming and stuff like that. So a lot of my musical backing is like based off jamming,
Yeah.
which
Okay.
is no real structure. And so
Yeah.
now I've found, when I'm going into more like producing, and I'll have artists, yeah, I want the chorus, pre-chorus, the breakdown, the bridge, stuff like that. And I realize I'm like in totally uncharted territory. I was like, wait, what? What do you mean? Like, I just kind of play whatever I
play,
feel at the
go for it.
time. But I think there's again, back to the balance of some structure and some
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just
I love
realizing that lately.
No, I mean, that was refreshing for me because because you just, if you've been writing songs for a while, it's gonna come. You're like, oh, okay, this is the intro, first verse, okay, this is the bridge, or the pre-chorus, whoa, we're getting into the bridge part. And I love when the opposite happens, when there's no A-B structure, when there's not even a chorus, right? But you have some other element that repeats, or you just, instead of going really loud and you build up to the chorus, you take away, and you're like building up. The pre-chorus is really big, and when you're expecting for it to explode, they take away, and it's just like a bass and the vocals, and you're just like, whoa, what is that? Like, that's what I love. That's what I'm looking for, because that's, for me, is unexpected. And I don't know if it's just me, as being a musician, or if other people just don't care, that just usually listen to it. But for me, it's refreshing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you gotta listen to this album, like, it's so different. But
I like that too. I like when pieces of music catch me off guard, when I'm like expecting to hear something, but then something else comes up. I'm like, oh, that's fun, a little refreshing notes.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why I just love, I just love being surprised. But anyways, we had a little chat before, and we were kind of talking about how the music industry is, changing. Because what I've realized, because I thought this 5 years ago, and I studied that, right? I went to England, studied pop music, right? And everyone told me the way you make money is to get signed. Like, as a musician, the only way to make it, whatever that means in the first place, is getting signed. You kind of get this tunnel vision of, I need to get signed. Kind of talk about your experiences that you've had in that field.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, it was nearly never on my mission or my plan to be signed.
Yeah.
I knew it was a thing, like earlier, that I don't know, I just it was just kind of never really too on my radar. And I'm kind of thankful, because now it's just changed so much, and now the industry's changed so much that there's lots of stories out there where people get signed and then they end up just finding out a way to get out of that deal. I was listening to a podcast, I think, with Questlove and Nelly Furtado, and Nelly Furtado was even saying, like, how long she had to go with or how long she had to wait, basically, before she could get out of that deal. And same with Nova Rockefeller on the Annabella and Lucy podcast. All three of those girls were actually signed at one point, and all three tried to get out of their deal as well. And actually, Nova Rockefeller and her partner Tom McDonald are releasing everything independently now, and they're kind of changing the way the music industry is laid out a little bit, because again, once you have somebody do it before you and you're like, oh, that's possible, it just kind of encourages you to go that way. So they're filming their own music videos, they're producing their own music, they're releasing their own music, and in not being signed, they have the freedom to say what they want and put out what they want, which is why they're, I think, making such a bit of a ripple right now, is because they're putting out, some would say, controversial music, but it's really just music that's speaking their truth. But if they were signed, then that would be limited. There's lots of people that want, I think, to be signed, but really don't understand the limitations of your artistry, of when you kind of go through that. So I was never really huge on my radar, but definitely seeing things, how they've changed now in the last few years. I'm just all for independent artists, independent releasing, releasing your music independently, doing the music videos if you can, or with your friends, and putting it out there, right? There's all these different platforms now, like DistroKid or CD Baby, where you can upload anything and it can get on any platform, as long as you are familiar with how the marketing and stuff like that works, which is something I'm still trying to figure out. But
aren't we all?
the internet's just such a big, vast place right now, where it wasn't 20, 30 years ago or whatever, when people are wanting to be signed. Like, that was your one outlet in order to get your music to all the other places. But now everybody's so connected all over the world. Like, why would you just like just take out that middleman, more or less.
Mm.
And yeah, I think as an independent artist, like it definitely takes lots of time management, because you are running your own business, you're an entrepreneur, and you got to be looking at multiple sources of income,
Yeah.
from merchandise, performing, producing, session musicians as other people, whatever the case
Mm.
is. But
Yeah.
it's definitely not consistent, and it's definitely not from one stream.
Yeah.
So like, if people are still trying to figure that out, maybe then, signed or getting somebody to tell you what to do and when to do it might be the best solution for them. But I think for most artists that have a hard time being placed in a box, I
Yes.
think the last thing they want to be told is what to do and how to do it, especially when it comes to expressing themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I 100% agree, because I mean, I think that will be the key to get variety on the radio, because like I said, right now I don't listen to it because it's all the same blah, right? And it's because
Yeah.
they're mostly signed artists. And so they're like, oh, we need a radio hit that it can't be longer than 3 minutes. It needs to have this and this structure. We know this and this works. So they kind of, put you in that box, and that's what we're hearing all day on the radio. That's been fed to us. And I kind of see the shift happening also, where through all these indie artists, we're like, we don't need that box right now. We don't need that 3 minute thing. If my song is 5 minutes and it's on Spotify and people like it, great.
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
cares? Like, and
Yeah.
hopefully, that will change the way what music we will listen to on the radio. So I can't wait what we're going to be hearing on the radio 10 years from now, hopefully.
Yeah, I think so. I think even just since TikTok came along, which has really
Oh,
been only in the last couple of years,
yeah.
independent artists are putting their music on there and having fantastic success. And 9 times out of 10, the songs with the most plays on any streaming platforms are the ones that blew up on TikTok. And when songs reach that magnitude,
Yeah.
radios can't not play it.
Yeah.
They can't
Yeah.
not play it. It's everywhere. That song's everywhere, 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 so then they're like, oh, okay, we got to play it. So I've seen that happen already, where where artists will release things on TikTok. They'll have phenomenal success on streaming platforms,
Yeah.
from their TikTok, and then it'll be played on the radio because of that demand. So I
Yes.
think it's close. It's close.
Yes, yes, let's go. Like, let's keep going. That's why I'm such a fan of, artists supporting artists, like you said in the beginning, just that networking. And, it's not the how, it's the who sometimes. You don't need to know how to do everything on our own. It's like, who can do this? Who can I ask to help me out, or ask for advice and stuff like that? That has been like a big thing in my last season of the podcast, in season 2, like musicians just asking for help. Just like, hey dude, like, I watched your music video, it was awesome, how the heck did you pull that off?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And nobody's gonna be like, I'm not gonna talk with you, or I don't want to tell you, or and if they're rude like that, then that's not the right person to ask anyway.
Yeah,
But
exactly. Everybody's so accessible now, right? You couldn't
yeah.
just DM somebody that many years ago to be like, hey, everyone's so accessible now, which is, it's really cool to see how the music industry especially is evolving, especially with like, I don't know if I've been learning a little bit more about NFTs and stuff like that. And even that whole concept of having the original kind of production, I guess, manufacturer number imprinted in the actual NFT of like a piece of music or a piece of art, so that every time that is sold, it's always traced back to the original owner, and the royalties will always come back to that original person. Whereas opposed to Spotify or SoundCloud, stuff like that, where they get monthly memberships,
Yeah.
subscriptions to them, but then the artists get like, I don't know, so 0.001% for every stream.
Nothing.
Just like labels are becoming kind of obsolete, and it's more independent artists and removing that middleman. That's kind of where I see distribution platforms eventually, if NFTs were eventually to evolve, which as an artist, again, mostly as an artist, I'm like, that makes sense because, you know, you're taking out that middleman and
Yeah.
you're getting more royalties for your work, right? And no
Yeah.
matter how many times that's sold over and over again, it'll
Exactly.
still come back to you. So that's something else I'm like kind of, you know, excited to see how that will change in the next 10 years or so, probably.
Yeah.
So it would just make sense, I guess, to take out kind of, you know.
Yeah. No, I can't wait. I can't wait how just the entire music world is going to change, you know, when that tipping point is going to happen. You know,
Yeah.
it's and that's why that's kind of what started this entire podcast in general, where I'm like, you know what, if we get enough independent musicians to come together to help each other out, you know, at some point we're going to be so many compared to the what 5% that are on the radio all day long, you know,
Yeah.
at some point there it's just a mathematical equation when, you know, that tipping point is going to happen, and you're gonna see this flood of change, and I can't wait for that to happen. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, Simon Sinek talks about that in his book Start With Why, and he shows you, you know, where if you just keep going, when you just don't give up and you keep going, and there are more independent artists and everyone's pushing together, you know, coming
Yeah.
together, it's so much harder to break that than having a few big artists, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just super
Yeah, well then,
excited.
yeah, and if it's like that, like you said, a greater audience of us all pushing forward together, then more songs would be out on the radio with a bit more of an important message, as opposed to
Yeah,
the label controlled of, you know, let's put out a song about a heartbreak or partying or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
You know, I think that's all very funneled
yeah,
into like kind of one message. So
yeah,
yeah, we'll just
exactly.
more independent artists are releasing their stuff about, yeah, good, I don't know, just a message, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, there's a time and place for, you know, the love songs and what, but there are only so many songs or so many ways to write a breakup song, or, you know, like we've got
Yeah.
so many of those, you know,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
the topics that, you know, you kind of addressed in your albums, and the people I've had on the podcast before that had very different approaches to their topics, that's what made me stop and be like, this is someone I need to talk to. This is someone that I connect with. I love their music. They're on my playlist now. Your music is on my playlist now. Like, I love that, you know.
Thanks. That's
So
awesome.
so
That's
again,
awesome.
you know, like that's why if everyone just keeps going, if everyone just keeps pushing, and everyone is helping out each other, and that's why, you know, anyone listening to the podcast, everyone on here is amazing, and they all just want to help out, you know, same as Jodie. So if you have any questions for her, you know, DM her. I mean, I hope it's
Yes.
not like
Yeah, no, please do.
sarcastic.
Please do.
But, you know, anyone that has been on my podcast, I always say this, like, go reach out and be like, hey, I really love XYZ that you did. How did you achieve that goal? How did you, what did you have to go through to get there? You know, sometimes it's not what we say, but how we say it.
Yeah.
So be respectful,
Yeah.
be nice.
No, and it's so important. I think that's really how you can kind of start achieving anything in life. You know, you
Yeah,
find your why, you find your goals, and then
exactly.
you seek out mentorship, right? You ask people who have done it before,
Yeah.
and you ask them what they can tell you, because if
Mhm.
we don't really have time in this lifetime to just constantly learn
Yeah.
from our mistakes, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, we
Yeah.
learn from our mistakes,
Yeah.
but in order to really progress, let's learn from other people's mistakes, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's what online courses are there for. Literally, I buy so many online courses. If I want to know something, you know, if I don't want to go through the how, then I go and pay someone to tell me how they do it, you know. And that's the cool.
Yeah.
This is another change that's happening, but you don't
Yes.
have to go through the entire journey on your own. And you
Mhm.
know, and that's why I'm literally putting together a members area where all my top 10 podcasts, books, online courses are in there that will help you cut corners, as in you can do it on your own. It will take you 10 years to figure it out, or you buy this course and you go through it in 6 months and
Yeah.
set, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I think that's really good advice that you're giving.
Yeah, thanks. I'm still learning. I'm always still like seeking out, like I said at the beginning, right? I recognize that I'd like to become a better producer and an engineer. So I've started seeking mentorship in that field, right?
I can actually set you up with someone really cool. But I'll
Cool.
talk with you about that later. That's like more of a private conversation, but I have someone for you that's gonna blow your mind.
Sweet.
But there's one thing or two things that I really noticed that I just want to ask, because your branding is on point. How the heck do you do that? Like, how do you did you come up with like a concept? Because it seems so cohesive. Like everywhere I'm going, your
I'm
website looks amazing. Just saying.
Wow.
Everything, you're laughing, but
I'm laughing because I just never thought somebody would say that.
this is something that literally, this is what I look at. Like when I'm like, okay, like can I like instantly recognize them? Do they have a brand? Do they, and is it, is it cohesive? Or when they go on the Instagram or on YouTube or on their website or, their Spotify, does it all fit together or does it look like 5 different artists? Right. And I've noticed with you, the pictures are very similar, your branding is on point, your logo and everything and your music videos, it just all fits together. Was that a conscious decision or what? Are you just so talented and you just did it subconsciously and it just all fits?
Yeah, I'm laughing partly because it was definitely not intentional, but I'm so grateful that you said that because it's something I struggled with for a long time. Like my partner actually came from a group that their branding was phenomenal. Like everything they did was so on point and like just incredible branding. And I was like, oh man, like what's my brand? What's my brand? That's like the hardest question, And so I actually went to this little mentorship program out in Toronto for a couple months in 2019. And they did basically a little workshop about discovering kind of your branding.
Yeah.
And we basically just started off with a mood board, creating a mood board with a couple different, colors, patterns, environments, concepts, things that just interest you as a person or things that look and compare to your music. And so for me, a lot of my music was kind of dark and bluesy, but hip hop, but vibey. As I'm a passionate snowboarder, so everything I listen to, I have to be able to listen to while I'm snowboarding. So I think about that, like kind of cool, vibey, chill, melodic sort of music. So I just started piecing kind of some colors together, and then I had this mood board and I was like, oh, okay, that kind of helps, I guess, just seeing like what some colors are of what my music looks like, I guess. But it was something I always struggled with about how to brand myself. And I basically just try to make a conscious effort to whatever I'm uploading them on all platforms. So, my Facebook, my YouTube, my Instagram, my website, just making sure that whenever I'm releasing something or promoting something, that everything is the same across all platforms so that when people go to look at it, it's not different and it's just connected in one stream. But it wasn't really so conscious as like to really put out the branding. It's just, I think, been a journey of connecting to my music and what I put out and what that looks like, and really just trying to show more of my own style and myself more as a person, I think is what's kind of contributed to that. I think as a solo artist, that's probably what it comes down to a little bit, is what your music sounds and looks like, and then what your personal identity is. And then I think with other groups and stuff like that, it's maybe a combination of that, but there's also groups that they'll wear costumes on stage and that's their identity, that's their branding. So I think it's either you kind of make this kind of costume idea where that's your identity, or it's just you. So thanks for saying that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm maybe I was just more aware because that's what I'm in right now with season 3. I'm like, okay, what is it gonna look like? What's the branding? What are the colors? You know, the color palette. Maybe that's why like my brain is kind
Mm.
of in that mode. So maybe that's why I just noticed even more. I don't know,
Right.
but you know, I look at a lot of Instagram profiles, you know, because I want to make sure I get the right people on here. I don't just randomly pick people like, oh, okay, which Instagram is, you know. So I
Yeah.
make sure I get the right people on here. So I look at a lot of Instagram profiles and websites and stuff like that. Most of them don't even have a website in the first place. And yours looks really good.
Thank you. Thanks.
um, so you're definitely on the right track, and I want to just applaud you for what you're doing, and I want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing because you're amazing, and I can't wait for more music to come. I have one last question.
Yeah. Thank you.
uh,
And I just quickly, sorry, just before you say that one last question, I just want to thank you again for saying that just last piece there, because again, as an artist, right, you just, I don't know, maybe everybody, but I feel like especially as an artist, you've got these up down days and down days and up days and down days, and
yep.
you never really know if you're right on the right path. Some days you feel like you're on it. Today I didn't. Today I woke up, I was like, what am I doing? Am I doing the right things? I don't know. So you saying that, I'm just like, okay, I'm doing something right. Just keep going. So thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah, no, again, we musicians need to support musicians, and you know, I'm all why I do things is really to empower and connect musicians. That, you know, that's what I do. This is what drives me. This is like, you know what, if we would come together, if we had all independent musicians come together, the tipping point would come way earlier, and we could all just change how music is consumed, and
Yeah.
you know, and the way we think, and that's what this podcast is all about. So I just appreciate finding people like you.
But I love this podcast. It's
So
phenomenal. You do a great job.
thing. I try. I'm just, you know, with season 2, I thought it was amazing, and it is amazing. And now I'm like, oh, season 3 is, you know, it's even better than that. And you know, the guests are, you know, even, you know, it just, again, like if I wouldn't look back and be like, oh, I'm learning then, or I'm not learning, or I'm not growing, then I'm doing something wrong. So I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
Yeah.
um, yeah. So if I there are 2 questions, but I'm just gonna, out of time because I have the clock right in front of me, and I want to respect your time. I'm gonna pick one. If there was a skill that if you went to bed and you woke up the next morning and you could do this skill perfectly, and it can be any music related topic, from producing to songwriting to marketing to branding to whatever you wanted to be. If you could do it perfectly, which one would it be? You woke up and you could do perfectly.
Time management.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, time management. I wish I could do perfectly. I wish I could wake up and I just, I almost wish some days that I could just like wake up and walk into an office and the boss tell me what to do, but that's not the life I want to live. So that's not what I want to do. But
Yeah.
you know what I
Again,
mean? I just
you know
wish I
that
had that
finding
home.
that line, when
Like
you're out the 9 to 5, you're like, you're out the 9 to 5, you know, when you're not, it's like, yep.
somebody tell me what to do.
Exactly.
No, it's probably time management and and communication. I think it's an important factor of music to be able to really understand and listen what was said to you, and then communicate effectively back. I think doing time management and communication, ironically, out of all things related to music, if I could do those 2 things perfectly,
Yeah.
I think it'd be yeah, I guess further along. I appreciate where I'm at now, but
Yeah.
I think music, the musicality of it is such a free flowing thing from the spirit to me that
Mhm.
I don't really want to wish to be able to do anything perfect in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. Actually, I'm gonna steal that answer.
Yeah.
Because I have such a squirrel brain, you know. I'm just like, ooh, this and oh, and like let's like just today I was working on the members area that I'm gonna bring out with this new season, and I was like in it, and we're just redoing the entire kitchen. So our kitchen is a mess, and it's like this huge thing happening. And I had one job, and that was to take a paintbrush, and just paint the wall white. That was my job. And so halfway through, my husband, he cooked, he's like, let's eat. And then I came like, okay, I eat. And then I sat down and I started working at my members area again. And then, as adorable as my husband is, he just went up, he took the paintbrush and he started, painting the wall. And I'm like, and I heard him, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Right. I had one job and I couldn't, like, my brain is like all over the place. I'll do like something halfway and then stop and do something else. And then I stop and then I have like 10 projects happening all at once. And so
Well, it's like,
I wish I was great at time management, because I'm so not.
it's kind of what our like generation is being branded to do though as well, right? It's not like, it's not so much like you just turn on a TV and you just watch a series of commercials. Now it's like on a like times a million with TikTok or something like that, where it's like instant. So our brains are getting shorter and shorter. Like, you know what I mean? We have less and less attention spans, and that's just the way it's going. It's so sad, but it's so true.
Everyone, that's like the currency nowadays is attention, right? How can I get your attention, and how can I keep it, right?
100%.
So like you have like 3 to 5 seconds to get someone's attention.
Yeah, and I think it's getting less and less.
And and it's getting like, how can it get less than 3 seconds? It's like it's crazy. So yeah, I definitely feel you on that one, because I have the squirrel brain, and my husband, he always laughs at me because he's just like, can you just finish? Because he's the opposite. He's great. He'll start a project, he'll finish it, it will look perfect, then he starts a new one. I'm the opposite. I'll start 100 things in between, and he's just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. Well, you're not the only one, that's for sure.
I think there are a lot of musicians that can hopefully relate to that. So Jodie, thank you so much for chatting with me, for again, spending your precious time on this podcast and talking with me and being so open and honest about your music and your story and your background. And again, I just want to appreciate you for what you're doing. Just keep going. I know I've said that, but I know we just need to hear it, because I wish someone would tell me that. And
you're doing awesome. Keep going. You're doing so good. You've pumped me up. I can't wait to start my day now talking to you. So you're doing an incredible job.
That then I'm doing something right. That's good. I'm sweating from all the lights, but yeah, I just want to appreciate you for what you're doing, and thank you.
Thank you.
Where can people check you out? Where can they find you? When is your new music coming? Tell us everything. Give us all the dates.
I'm pretty active on my Instagram, which is Jodie B Music, Jodie, letter B, and then music. That's the platform I'm most active on, but I'm also on Facebook and TikTok and YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify. Just type in Jodie B, and my album Equanimous is up there, and a few other projects. And I've just finished these 3 songs in the studio this past week, so I'll just get a release plan together for those 3, and probably releasing this fall.
Nice. Okay. Well, let me, keep me in the loop. I want to know when that's happening. And I'm also going to link everything up below, so people will have no trouble finding you. So just click everything. All the links will be there. I'll make sure they are. And so Jodie B, pretty much everywhere. I didn't have any trouble finding you. So Spotify, Instagram, your website will be linked down below, and can't wait to hear more of your music. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this. This was really fun, and it was such a pleasure talking to you. And yeah, you're doing an amazing thing by connecting the community together, and I'm very grateful.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks. Thank you so much for listening to the Musician Secrets podcast. I appreciate your time because you could literally be doing a bazillion other things right now, but you're here with me, so thank you. If you want, you can scroll all the way to the bottom and leave a comment on how you're liking the podcast, what you've learned, and things you've even implemented that have helped you out. As a little thank you, I put together a free members area with all my best resources, books, podcasts, and online courses about everything you need to know as an independent musician, from producing to songwriting to marketing to building a home studio, all the good stuff. All you have to do is either click the link below or go to alisekoa.com/free. I'll see you on the other side. Bye!